My mic's muted. Wonderful. That's a good way to start the podcast. Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This is Rohin from PC Peasants, and I have Anurag Khurana and Rishi Alwani, who are industry experts. You can see
Debatable, but okay. We'll roll with that.
you can see Rishi cringe when I say that, and yeah, obviously this is a podcast that I've been wanting to do with Rishi for a long time because I've obviously always wanted to be a games journalist, but I don't think I have the writing chops, and it's great to have you, Rishi. Read all your articles, and we've also got Mr. Anurag Khurana, who you've obviously seen in chat. He's one of my mods as well, and he comes from a long list of credentials, which I think I'm just going to let him list out, right, Anurag? So we'll start with you since your letter starts A. Let's go, Anurag. Who are you, and what have you done in this industry? Can you please enlighten us?
I got into games development back in '99. That's when I set up my own company, and we were the third company to get into games dev, including our grandfather of gaming. I can call him now, Rajesh Rao from Dhuva,
Dhruva.
Vishal from India Games, and third was my company called Netlinium Technology. So three of us in different parts of India doing different stuff, but all three were in the gaming. Then in 2001, I got an opportunity to set up the gaming studio in Mumbai. That was my first hit in Mumbai, where we formed a new studio called Paradox Studios. I was the founder CEO of that, and the the initial objective was to do web-based multiplayer gaming. But suddenly, I get a call from Reliance that we are launching our phones, and you have to develop games for that. The
Okay.
funny part was for the resolutions at that time for PC, it might sound odd to you was maximum 800, 600 into 600, but we were told to develop games for resolution of 90 by 65, and that too black and white, not even four scales of gray. So that's how I got into gaming per se. Uh, so I was there till 2006 or 2007. Then I joined Red Oct, part of Activision Group. The one game that they made in their whole career and which has been a huge success was Guitar Hero. So I was the CEO of their Indian subsidiary. Uh, then I took a sabbatical out of gaming industry, worked in consulting, and that too consulting for smart cities projects for a decade. Then suddenly I get a call from Riot that we are looking for a country manager. But my first question was, which company? They said Riot Games. I said, sorry, I don't know. Which game? They said League of Legends. And I was like, sorry, I don't know. Then I said, which genre? Then they said, it's a MOBA. I said, that's the reason. I tried Dota, couldn't take it up. So I skipped all the
Right.
MOBAs that were ever released. So, but they said to sit in the interview, you have to be level 10. Sorry, I told everybody who applied at my place later when I became the country manager, you have to be level 30, but the requirement was level 10 only. So
Okay.
then, of course, me being a core gamer, I did it in like 10 days where they gave me a month. So then, of course, I became the country manager for Riot Games. Due to unfortunate reasons, didn't Riot didn't take off in India at that time. Then I got an opportunity to work with you as a head of esports. That's my history. So at present, I'm basically helping Paytm to set up their esports.
Great, thank you, Anurag. That's an awesome CV right there. Riot Games is definitely awesome. So coming to Rishi,
Yeah.
Rishi, could you please give us your backstory?
I actually started out with gaming because of a certain game called Deus Ex. That
Nice.
came out in 2001. I managed to convince my folks to gift it to me, and before I knew it, I was assembling PCs because that's how you got shortcut it.
Yeah.
And this was while I was still in school, and I kind of knew that I had a good thing going because I passed off my ICSE board exam. They wanted me to write a book report for my board exam. My board exam book report was Deus Ex: The Conspiracy.
Wow.
Wow.
I basically passed off a video game as a book report. And then I just would keep playing games anyway, right? Particularly immersive sims. So Deus Ex, Thief, later on Dishonored, Prey, the good stuff. And because of all that, I used to I ended up freelancing in college for a youth magazine by the Times Group called JLT. I used to manage the game section. So that was a fun time. Like in college, it was basically video game money. And then after that, I got my first job at Milestone Interactive. That was so at the time they were India's biggest games distributor. They had EA, they had Sony. So I joined on board, and 6 months in, they were like, "Yeah, you know what? We should get on this e-commerce thing." And this was in 2008.
Yes.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about because because at that time you spend your whole life buying most of your games pirated, and you're suddenly earning enough that you can pick up OG games. But then, hey, there were no OG games on PS2 like Shadow of the Colossus. You couldn't find FF10 on PS2 either. So I ended up importing a ton of them from PlayAsia. Okay. So they're like, "Oh yeah, you're the guy who keeps ordering stuff from online and keeps showing up here. So you're managing this." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we launched Game for You a year later, which was India's answer to GameStop. So I was managing the website, helped them launch the first store, helped them with the buying side as well. So what usually happens is, and the reason why you have stores like GameStop or GameStop that give you good deals, is because the guys who are employees there do their best to get the best deal. So there are a lot of adventures getting the best deals on a lot of things. We sealed a really sweet deal on the Wii where we managed to get, I think, 100 units for $100 a piece. And at that time, the exchange rate was so good. We were making like 10,000 rupees per console sold, which doesn't happen here. Yeah. So in India, your console margin, your margin on hardware, and I think even for peripherals, so peripherals goes up to 40%, but console hardware 10 or 12% best case. So you can imagine 10 grand profit per console sold was a pretty cool thing we managed to do. So I was there for like for almost 3 years. I learned a lot. And it was really amusing because you end up, when I joined, they asked me what my opinion of EA was. And I was like, yeah, EA is shit. I hate them. I hate what they do. They killed Westwood. They killed Dune. They killed Red Alert 2. Like, I hate them. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to be managing EA. I'm like, oh shit. So those are like 3 really crazy years. I learned a lot on the business side of it. And frankly speaking, that's the thing most gamers don't understand. We get into this thinking, oh yeah, we know games. But that's like only, I think, 25% of it. The actual 75% is understanding how the business works. And I learned a lot there. After that, I basically had a stint at T3 magazine for a year and a half as a features editor. Then Disney happened. I was there for a year managing what they called their answer to iTunes, but for gaming, which is the games on demand subscription service. Okay. So yeah, subscription services in 2012, before Game Pass was a thing. Mm-hmm. So that's what was going on. So I was basically talking to publishers, trying to get the best deals, getting stuff running. So I was there for a year and a half. That was also a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. But Square Enix happened. So, I mean, as you can tell, Deus Ex, owned by Square Enix, massive fan. Final Fantasy, massive fan. So I had to apply. There was no way I wasn't going to apply. So I applied. And we were working on India's first MMO. But the problem is we wanted to make an MMO for mobile phones. Now, this is the time when everyone was using Galaxy Ys with 3.5-inch displays. The studio we were working with, well, let's just say they weren't up to the task. So when I joined, I was given this massive docket on my desk and said, yeah, you clean up this stuff which they've given us, because since you're the producer, figure out the design, how it would work, and get things rolling. So I think 4 months in, I decided we should kill off our partnership with that studio because they weren't up to it. A year later, Square Enix shut down the studio here because they weren't willing to greenlight any projects in India. Right. So after that, I was like, okay. I mean, I was pretty bummed out because at that time the business was in a pretty weird place. Because you had the industry saying business is growing, but then those in the business knew it was another story. So at that time, I was looking out, and I started freelancing again for a place called Games in Asia. That was a Singapore-based games website, and they wanted me to cover the India beat from a business standpoint. I'm like, great, right up my alley. So I had a lot of fun doing that for I think 4 months, and that site imploded. And after that, I've been at NDTV. I was at NDTV till May 4th last year, Star Wars reference. And over there, it was crazy. It was like 4.5 years of figuring out what's going on in the industry, what's going on in general. It's really cool because by that time, the month I joined was the month the Dragon Age Inquisition got banned in India, except it wasn't a ban. And we were the guys with the scoop on that. Because
what happened actually, like, to Dragon Age?
So what actually went down is so 2 things went down. One was the distributor was Milestone Interactive, and I didn't have any NDAs, but I had people there. And what they had told me off record is like, yeah, we're not bringing it because of the game's homosexual themes. So, and no one
right.
else had that information. So we put that out there. Before you know it, my boss is like, "What have you done?" We're getting traffic from everywhere. I'm like, "Yeah, well, news stuff happens." So, but then what I found out 6 months later, and we broke that story also, was because they had cash flow. They had cash flow problems. And because you have cash flow problems, the cash flow problem is so severe, you couldn't even bring 300 units of an RPG. Now in India, aside from Witcher 3 is the exception.
Right.
RPGs don't sell. So Dragon Age Inquisition, 300 units, they couldn't even bring that in, which is the minimum order at the time. So it was a messy scene. But then at Gadgets, I learned a lot. I learned that you have to continuously hold your ground, because you're gonna have. So I can't tell you the number of times I've had some really high C-level employees in the biz who have told me to erase stories. And I'm like, boss, you don't do that. That's not how this works. You have this on record. Here's the recording. I mean, if you're going to say stuff you shouldn't be saying, and you know what I'm doing, then what do you want me to say? And this is stuff people should know about. See, it's another thing altogether if they're telling me stuff that's random nonsense. But if you're telling me things that people need to know about, when it comes to, like, if you think about it right now in 2019 and 2020, two of the biggest points of contention for developers, for anyone in the business, is the fact that the ecosystem, rather Google, Apple, Steam, aside from console guys are still are another fish altogether.
Right.
The biggest problem is the revenue share. The revenue share isn't what it should be, and they don't feel that they get the discoverability. I mean, today, if you Rohan, if you want to put up an app, all right, on iOS and Android, good luck getting people to know that it exists. You're going to spend more getting people to know it exists than putting it out there.
Right.
And that eats into businesses, eats into margins, and that's the thing that Indian businesses were talking about as a problem as early as 2014.
I see.
And then after they say that, they're like, hey, you know what? Can you remove the story? I'm like, no, people need to know this. This is important. So we learned that. We had a long running podcast, I think 100+ episodes.
Yeah.
And that was hilarious because the other two guys on the podcast, Pranay, was super organized, and then I'm basically, I just really fumble through everything. And we had a third guy, Mikhail, who's working with me on Mako right now.
Right.
So it was three of us running it. We had 100+ episodes. It was really interesting is that we got I actually had people message me or call me or even DM me on Twitter saying we heard transition. What's up with that? I'm like, yeah, it's gone because I'm not there. So Gadgets was fun because I also learned a lot on the SEO side of things, which is SEO is basically like Destiny 2 but with a better meta, because your meta is handled by Google, and Google understands that they can't keep changing things around like Destiny 2 did with its update. So whatever.
We have some Destiny 2 fans who are gonna like strongly disagree.
I mean, Division 2 is a better game, man. Deal with it. So
then Division 1? Really? I don't think so,
Division,
man.
See, the thing is, Division 1 at launch was mad. Division 1 later was good. But I like 2 right now. So.
Achha.
The point is, so I learned a lot on the SEO side of things, which was really amusing. And more importantly, and I think the biggest thing was the fact that you realize people read, and people read a lot. And even though they wouldn't comment, they'd send you emails. And yeah, it was fun. It was a lot. After that, I decided to branch out because I got burnt out. I mean, even though the traffic was really good and work was really good at Gadgets, the problem was, there weren't. You're operating on your own. It's like, it's like a barren survivalist wasteland at the end of the day, because the rest of the team didn't understand gaming, and you end up having to spend more time correcting this stuff. The environment wasn't conducive to stick around because you felt burnt out after a point.
Right.
And I just felt tired, completely tired and burnt out. But I still managed to leave on good terms, thankfully. Great. And I'm still in touch with most of the team, and they're good guys. And so then I started my own site, MakoReactor.com. We focus mainly on Japanese games. Mako Reactor because, again, Final Fantasy VII reference. As you can see, Square Enix seems to be a part of a lot of things. So we started our site in June of last year. And me. So both of us are like basically neighbors at this point. He lives like 10 minutes from my place. We meet on a weekly basis, get things up and running in terms of content. The idea with this is not to push ourselves and kill ourselves, even though we know if we, insert coffee in veins.gif and get things running, we can scale in like 3 months. But we don't want to do that. We want to take it nice and slow. More importantly, build up, more than the numbers, it's all about building the right audience. And, that's the main thing, because right now we're in a situation where gaming has exploded to a large degree. I mean, we're seeing streamers doing a lot of good stuff, some doing a lot of questionable stuff. The audience is there, but it's just a question of getting the audience we want. And for us, we're looking at for the lack of a better term, a more posh crowd, a crowd who knows the difference between turn-based and real-time strategy, who knows the difference between.
That's a very small niche crowd
Yeah.
you're marketing
Yeah,
towards.
but it seems to be working, man. It seems
Is
to be
it?
working.
Okay, that's good. I'm happy. I'm happy for
Our
you.
numbers are thankfully good. I mean, we're exceeding what our internal estimates were for the last 7 months. I mean, touch wood, they're going in the right direction. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're focusing on the Indian scene to the extent I can.
Right.
So whatever Sony's up to, whatever Microsoft's up to, or whatever Nintendo's up to, we're like on the ball with that. It's like that's something we cover without fail. And there's been like some interesting incidents around that. Also, we had one time when Sony didn't want to tell us anything about price drops, so I had to get 3 guys into their trade meeting. And you guys watched Departed, right? Where Leonardo DiCaprio just SMSs what's going on. That basically happened. So that's how we got info on price drops and had it up half an hour later. Before you know it, everyone and their granddad's linking back. Finally.
And that leads back to the SEO game, which is...
that too. So, that.
So that's quite a backstory. My God, I'm never playing D&D with you because that...
Mages for life, dude.
Really? Oh, I'm a wizard too. Yay.
Yes.
Are you into board games? Anurag, are you also into board games?
Not really, but yes, I enjoy D&D based games like Baldur's Gate, etc. So I'm a big RPG player.
You
Any
are an
RPG
fan.
give to me. Yeah.
Great.
So Rishi, what I was discussing with you is that let's take over his podcast and discuss Final Fantasy VII.
No, please
What's your
don't.
opinion about the
Please
remaster?
don't. I will kill myself.
No, you know what? Actually, what we should do, we should make it relevant to the host.
Yeah.
What would happen if Final Fantasy VII ended up being collectible items in PUBG Mobile?
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's relevant at all.
Trust me, I don't even see it as a not possible thing happening because Final Fantasy brand is still great. Final Fantasy Remastered, you have seen the trailer, etc.
Yep.
I'm impressed.
I unfortunately never got into Final Fantasy. I think you had to have grown up with a PlayStation 1 or 2.
Yeah, I kind of agree. If you weren't in that
ecosystem,
in that era, it's a little tough to get.
Yeah, I missed it. I unfortunately missed that.
But you're here for PUBG, bro.
Yeah, I'm here for PUBG. I started PUBG Mobile emulator live streams.
There you go. That's why. Right?
I started a trend. I'm quite proud of it.
Cloudbuster Sword in PUBG Mobile when?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't catch what you just said.
I said Cloud's Buster Sword and actually Chocobo mounts in PUBG Mobile when.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, why not? Make it happen.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm still struggling to retain the PUBG Mobile audience. I think it's because you burn out on games as well if you keep playing it, especially as a streamer. If you're playing the same game 4 hours every day, after a while it grinds on you and you're just not able to handle it. But yeah, I think the one topic that a lot of people want you guys to at least fill us in on is esports. And Anurag, you've had substantial work ex in that sort of space, and you're now helping Paytm set up esports. I don't know how much of it you can share with us in the podcast today, but yeah, like where is India heading with esports? Which platforms and what kind of money are we talking?
I would contradict my earlier statements on esports that mobile is not esport. Today, I completely disagree with that statement. Okay. For India and all the mobile-first countries, trust me, even I don't like saying it, but mobile is the way to go. So, PUBG, Free Fire, I agree though that the statement from
me.
PUBG, no, not you, man. PUBG Cop guy the founder was that esports for PUBG is like 5 years away for it to become a real esports title. But I think for Indian perspective, it's very clear that it has to be mobile esports which is gonna take the space. So I made that statement that actually esports is what is happening on PC and partially on console, but I think for India it's very clear that mobile esports is the way to go. Not saying that PC based esports will go away, but mass player base is on your mobile esports.
Interesting that you mentioned console esports. Rishi, is there what is the audience in India for consoles? And I think that's something you'll be able to
So,
answer.
so here's the thing on console. It's so what, even though it's really amusing, right? Like if you look at what's out there in terms of media, you have a situation where the Western press, basically 70-80% of the stories are console driven, based around console games.
Yeah.
With India, it's another story. With India, a lot of it is PUBG, and again, I don't know how much of it is Tencent pushing traffic to sites, but a lot of it is there. In terms of player base, we have I think 425,000 PS4s. That's including the grey market.
Okay.
Xbox is around 55,000, also including grey market. The Switch has done better than the Xbox. I think the Switch was sitting at around 60,000 units sold.
Wow.
What's amusing though is the Switch Lite ends up being, according to a lot of retailers I speak to, who bring in the Switch Lite. The pricing, even though the pricing is good, what they keep saying is the Xbox One sells better than the Switch Lite. It's that bad. So,
Okay.
so the point is there is a market, but then if you compare it to the mobile install base, it's negligible. It's basically it's a rounding error compared to the mobile install base, and that's where what Anurag's getting at. That in terms of install base, it's there. But to answer your question directly, in terms of is there an esports scene for console, there is around 3 games from what I know of. One is it's on FIFA. FIFA has a pretty good scene. There are guys who competed internationally at a regular basis. There's Ruben Pereira who represented India at a national. Another guy who goes by the handle of Jaunty Train, I think. He also plays at he's based in Maharashtra. Also plays at an international level. And then the other one is Call of Duty. Call of Duty, there are a lot of hardcore players who play online on a regular basis. Then there's the FGC crowd. Actually, I said 3. I meant it's actually more than 3, because the FGC crowd, even though majority,
What is FCG?
the fighting game community. There's
right.
rabid vocal fighting gaming community here, particularly around 2 games.
Super Smash.
Yeah, Super Smash and Tekken 7.
Tekken,
And
right.
to a smaller extent, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So you have, it's there. The audience is there. It's in a way, I'm not saying it's not even as big as PC. PC is still a lot bigger versus console in that respect, and
Okay.
that's the pecking order: mobile, PC, and console. And I mean, to add to Anurag's point, that yes, esports is gonna grow because of mobile. Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from a pure number standpoint, yes. But the big question is it going to be professional, standardized, or are we still in that phase where it's going to continue to be casual for a while? And I think that's where the situation seems to be changing.
What do you think, Anurag? Like, do you think companies are going to bother with consoles?
Not for India, because as the numbers which Rishi mentioned, they are, like he said, they are point some percentage kind of base even to the PC. Forget mobile for a time being.
Right.
So, and second is, Rishi, what's your opinion? Because right now, if you see, none of the publishers are looking at FCG games being available in the country on
On what?
consoles.
So,
Consoles, yeah.
that's an interesting thing, because see, the thing is, like I said, the FGC community is on the smaller side. They're very rabid, they're very vocal, they're very visible. But if you look at it, if you compare it to the games that are out there, the problem is that, right? I mean, a publisher is not going to bring in 1,000 or 2,000, 3,000 units of a game just because a guy's having a tournament.
Sure.
He needs to see a roadmap. He needs to have his own distributor interested in that ecosystem. And if I recall correctly, with Mortal Kombat 10, Mortal Kombat 11, those had numbers, those had audiences, those had people showing up, and they had proper esports roadmaps, and people flew out, people played internationally, all that happened. The thing is, so it depends on the game actually. When FGC is concerned, a lot of it depends on the game and what has a larger mass appeal. If I look at it, while personally I'm a fan of games like BlazBlue, I'm a fan of games like Guilty Gear, and I know that stuff doesn't even make it here sometimes digitally, so forget physical. But with Mortal Kombat seems to be the one that does really well. Tekken is also doing really well. What's interesting is that I know it's like ancient history now, that 2 years ago when UCypher did their Tekken 7 tournament, and because that was broadcast to such a wide base on television, there were a lot of people who actually came into stores and wanted to buy Tekken 7, and it was whoever managed to pick it up, sales picked up that week. So a lot of it goes hand in hand. It's just still a chicken and egg situation. It's not like on mobile where you can say, okay, there's Clash Royale, there's PUBG, there's COD Mobile, there's a scene. The scene is still growing. It's still a very slower pace. And if you ask me, it's a lot more organic in a way because a lot of it is user driven. It's not like you have a publisher spending a ton of money for people to buy a console game here. That doesn't happen. That used to happen, not anymore. So I think a lot of it is still grassroots.
Right, right, and that's interesting because I feel like Tencent really helped the ecosystem for PUBG Mobile. Like they put in the money, and I think it's a case study there where if a publisher actually like cares about promoting esports in a country, and the way Tencent has, it can really make things better for the community, for the players, for the viewers, for the talent. You have connections with Sony, and I mean, do you think Sony would do something like that with the PlayStation 5 and or Microsoft with the new Xbox?
So that's actually a pretty good point that you made. That to be honest, and if you look at the situation, like when I started out working 10 years ago, Sony had basically put in a lot of money in it.
Okay.
They had created manufacturing plants for games, so there's local replication. So before games which would cost $2,500 became $990. They brought in hardware bundles where with the PS2 you paid $5.5. Around $7,000. You get a PS2, a second controller, and a game like Destruction. You had a situation where and it worked out. There was a reciprocation because on the PS2 lifetime to date install base in India was I think close to 1 million units. But then you had to spend to get that in. And at the same time, there were also a ton of games made in India for the PlayStation 2 and to an extent the PS3. We had Street Cricket by Trine. We had Hanuman Boy Warrior, which was the first one that came out.
Yeah.
That was such a train wreck.
By the way, I still have that copy. I bought it.
Nice. So at that time, I remember when I was at Milestone, we got to play Hanuman Boy Warrior 3 months prior to release, and we were like, this can't ship. They're like, don't worry, tell us the list of changes. But then, so my point is, Sony invested the time and energy. And they got the return on the PS2. They got the return on the PSP. The PSP sales were fantastic throughout. But at the end of the day, that's the problem with consoles, right? You're beholden to your install base. You don't have the install base. You don't have the momentum. Nothing's going to happen. And when Sony put in the money, they put in the money on the PS2. They put some amount on the PS3. But they didn't do anything with the PS4. The PS4, I mean, to be honest, like I said, if I compare it to the PS3 install base was 375,000 at the end of the generation.
Okay.
Which is nonsense at the end of the day.
Yeah, abysmal.
And if you compare it to other regions like the Middle East, if I remember correctly, Dubai hit 1 million PS4 sold in 2 years. But then, like I said, if they're not going to put in the effort, it's not going to happen. And right now with India doesn't seem to be a market of importance at this point in time. And I'm not saying this because that's what Sony told me. I'm saying this because it's there. You can tell. You walk into a game store, you'll see more branding for a game like Doom instead of Uncharted 4. And that was the case back in the day.
Right.
And I mean, they only started taking India seriously in the last 2 years, where we actually saw them put ad spend into God of War, ad spend into Spider-Man. They actually they've been discounting regularly, but that's it. So a lot of it is a push and pull. And I mean, to be honest with you, Tencent brute forced the market. They come in, they basically threw money at a problem. But then here's the issue with that.
Okay.
I mean, I know for a fact that at the end of the day with Sony, with Microsoft, the focus is also to turn a profit.
Right.
And that's where that's where they've been successful. In Tencent's case, even though you have the install base here, from everyone I've spoken to, from whatever I've seen, whatever I know, is that they're nowhere close to breaking even. So if you're looking at it from a pure business, as a day-to-day business, as a month-to-month business, and you're worried about your P&L, Sony's a lot more cautious on the market. Tencent's willing to take the hit because for them, fine, you're not making money on PUBG in India, but you have a crazy install base that you can use for other purposes.
Right.
So that's how that's the difference a lot of it has to do with the differences in business model as well, because Tencent doesn't have to worry about manufacturing costs of hardware. They don't have to worry about whether one studio bombs on a game release or not, because that happened with Order 1880s. That happened to an extent with Days Gone. But,
right.
And so that's the thing. So because you have different business models, and for them the path to accessibility is a lot easier with Tencent. Everyone has a mobile phone, get in at the right time.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things. Frankly speaking, I don't see either Sony or Microsoft go guns blazing in a next gen for India. India will be strategically important because they have investors who are going to hold them to that, and they're going to have a very vocal media that's going to hold them to that. But I don't see them suddenly overnight, plastering the city like Xbox did with the Xbox 360. They
Right,
did.
right.
So I don't see that happening. And to be honest with you, the fun fact about the 360 launch, uh, their logic was India was country of 1 billion, so what, even if 1% buys, we'll make our money back.
Right.
And I think they ended up, from what I recall, I think around numbers, I think around 250,000 360s or 100,000 360s. It was a pretty low number over their life.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
But I
So
think, sorry,
no, Anurag,
Rohit.
please speak. Yeah.
Yeah, what I was adding to whatever Rishi said, I think Microsoft per se has not been successful as Sony as far as the console goes, starting from Xbox.
I mean, yeah, there is to a point. But then the thing is with the 360, even though they took the hit that gen, they still created a loyal install base. I mean,
Okay.
they created people who wanted to come back and buy. But with the Xbox One, because they decided to deal with Amazon directly, that
Okay.
I mean, to be honest, a lot of people still buy hardware offline. We're not a country
Yeah.
yet where a majority of
Sure.
hardware sales are online, and you need that in a country
Yeah.
like India. That's free marketing. I mean, as the meme goes, free real estate, right? So Sony is able to get that free real estate to a large degree. I mean, I think it's a situation now where, because we're essentially a one console country, for those stores, which is I think majority of the stores that only sell official product, Sony is 70-80% of the business, and
Yeah.
it's a monopoly, and it's a little disturbing, right? So I don't know. I've heard that Microsoft wants to make amends with the Series X and wants to get things in order, but then they keep saying that every year anyway. So I
Exactly.
don't
Right.
know. So
You guys did mention grassroots, and that's something that Anurag has always mentioned, that the way to nourish an esports ecosystem in India is to basically target the grassroots scene. You've said it in chat as well many times, Anurag. Can you elaborate on like what you mean by that?
I'm very strong believer that for a country like India, you have to go. So there are two ways. You can start at pro level esports, and then come down, or other is go from bottom to top. So I'm very clear that if you look at even Tencent, their first major tournament was the college championship with no recognized team. That was actually, in my opinion, a grassroots event.
Okay.
I strongly believe that we have to have, for any game, not just Tencent. You pick up any game which is very popular in due course, has been courtesy its grassroots. Where did esports start 10 years back, man? It started as a grassroots event. It then took 10 years to get into pro level streaming and all that stuff. But
Right.
when esports started, well, it was a grassroots event. I remember
DreamHack.
seeing,
DreamHack
yeah,
was a college LAN thing. I
yeah,
think, right?
like even Riot, League of Legends. I can talk hours about Riot, but I'll keep it very short. Their first esports tournament was at DreamHack.
Right.
So which was actually a grassroots event, which was basically for people who enjoy gaming, come to that event and then play around.
So, what are companies like still at Anurag? What are companies like Paytm and like Geo and obviously like I don't want you to like divulge industry secrets or anything, but like how do you think that what is the approach to solving the fact that okay, esports is still not a viable like business in terms of profits? I mean this is public knowledge. Whatever Rishi said, I've also heard through the vines, through the grapevines, and it's quite public knowledge that everybody knows that Tencent's not making their money from the Indian audience. But at some point, you have to make money. So like, what is the solution? Like, how do we solve
See,
this?
first thing from esports perspective, you have to look at as B2B business, not B2C business. Yes, you're
Okay.
at the end of the day uh, uh, helping the players, but it's a B2B business. So in India, the only one revenue stream which is gonna work for esports for a couple of years is gonna be sponsorship, for a company to get sponsorship for tournaments. So I, I most of the companies who run their own tournaments like Riot, Activision Blizzard, for all these guys, at least Riot till 1 year back, esports was a great marketing tool. So anytime they had worlds coming up, their sales, which was in-app sales, would just rocket jump. But so it was a great marketing tool. It's only 1 year or roughly 1.5 years back. They said, no, we have to make esports profitable also. And I think they have done it with the kind of sponsorship they have got on LEC, LCS, all these leagues. It's for you to decide that what your business model is. Like, trust me, Rohin, what my take on even Tencent is that esports per se for Tencent is a great marketing. It's not their core business where they wanna make money.
So that's my question to both of you. Like, how is a company like Tencent going to make money?
So, I mean, the way I see it, at the end of the day, as Anurag said, it's essentially the event itself, the large PMCOs, stuff like Worlds, stuff like the Overwatch Cup. That's all there to essentially serve in-game microtransactions of the game. And the second part of it, and this is the part that not many people are aware of, and I find it funny, particularly Indian mainstream media, the way they talk up. They keep thinking people are spending crores a week on microtransactions. Pardon my French, bullshit. The money is coming from other stakeholders in the ecosystem. As complicated and as stupid as that term sounds, it's essentially this, right? Today, PUBG Mobile has a partnership with Street Dancer 3D. It's a Bollywood movie.
Right.
You're trying to tell me Tencent said, hey, put what you want for free. No, they're charging them an arm and leg. That's where
Right.
they're going to make their money. At the end of the day, I also know that for a fact that they're approaching. They're telling teams, because see, look, at the end of the day, because esports is back in the limelight, you have people who want to invest in esports. They invest in teams. That's the quickest way for any investor to get in at this. In not just India, across the world. So they're talking to teams across the world. They're telling them, hey man, that's a great team you have there. That's a winning. Why don't you spend some money and get your jersey in the game?
Yeah.
So that's how they're going to make their money. It's not like, and at the end of the day, let's be honest, which game have you seen in this country or focused on India that actually has a web series? Now, fine, the content is whatever it is, but I look at it from a point of view as that's great because the ad revenue from you to them, that is all going to fund the business. At the end of the day, it's content upon content to make money on content.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, and that's how it's going to work. I mean, because fact of the matter is, at its very core premise, and any business at its very core premise for India, India is a market where we do not like to spend stock. So the best way is to approach business, and as Anurag said, that's how it's going to be. And I don't see it being a problem. I see it being profitable from that aspect because tomorrow, hey, I look at it this way. Tomorrow, if Capcom decides to partner with PUBG Mobile again for Resi 3, I am there. I will
Right.
download the game again and play that again because I like Resi 3. So I think, and a lot of it also has to do from a standpoint if you think about it. It's not about a game at the end of the day. It's essentially trying to create a place for people to hang out. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of casuals, at least what used to happen at the Gadgets 360, is we'd have half the team sitting in the office after work with their headphones on, playing with each other in a local setting.
Right.
And that's the thing. You have a situation where it's one part of it is a game. That's how guys like you, me, and Anurag look at it. But if you look at it from a social aspect, so people go to hang out, and
Yeah.
you know how it is, right? The more amount of time you spend at a place, the greater chance you have of spending. I mean, to be honest, that's what happens at Starbucks. You spend like half an hour there, 2 hours there for not ordering. Fine, you spending, and
Right.
that's what kind of works with Indians. Because if you look at the Steam reviews for a game like Warframe, you have a lot of people who actually say, "Yeah, I spent on this game because I felt guilty spending." So it's I mean, so that's the other part of it that's going to come in.
But is that an Indian audience member saying that? Because I feel like the Indian audience is an audience which can continue playing or using a service for free.
Yeah, true.
Not feeling that consumer guilt or whatever.
That a large part of the audience is that, but then you have those who do that. And I mean, I'm seeing it at least in the console space, right? There used to be a point in time for 2 years straight, all I do every night is play Overwatch with my friends. And I think I was the only one who didn't spend on skins until I was forced to spend on. Yeah. So it's a small thing, but it's happening in very small ways. But it's something that's, I mean, it's not going to happen on a large scale for pop, which is why you have the other things to prop it up until.
Right.
Rishi, Rohit, Rishi, I've heard reports that PUBG's monthly revenue from India is close to $7 million. Some
That's N
some
Tracker.
article,
That was from N Tracker. That article is from N Tracker around I think
yeah,
June, May,
but
June around that time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, do you believe in that? Number one, that those kind of numbers. Your smile
Uh,
says it all.
so let me put it in the most non BS way possible.
Right.
From all the public reports we've seen about PUBG India revenues, that's the closest, but it's nowhere close to what it actually.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a because let's be honest. I just look at it this way. At the end of the day, if you have a 7 million revenue, if you have that much money coming in, you're gonna be. I mean, you're gonna want to. I mean, you're gonna want to put it somewhere, right? You're either gonna go get a bigger office space, or you're gonna hire people in because you have the revenue, you have the cash flow, and we haven't exactly seen that go down, right? We haven't seen any of that go down. We haven't seen Tencent go to town trying to hire a bunch of in any large
That's
scale.
funny that you mentioned that, because I on Jan 10th I got a call for a Tencent social media position in Bangalore.
Yeah, so that's what I think. It's a one-off call, right? It's not like they've opened the floodgates and said, "Hey, everyone send."
Yeah, no, I think there are 2-3 positions. I mean, yeah, it's not a floodgate by
That's what
any
I'm getting
means.
at. That's
Yeah.
what I'm getting at. It's
Yeah.
it's one or two to fill in existing positions, great.
Yeah.
But we're not seeing that trickle down because if that was the actual if that was the actual revenue coming in, there'd be some trickle down. There would be a disturbance in the force, all right?
Right,
And
fair enough.
we'd hear something, and that's the thing. We haven't heard that. So
Okay, this is, speaking of myths. I mean, since Anurag, you've actually hit the nail on the next topic. Forbes in 2018 like put up an article saying that digital gaming in India is going up into $1 billion market, $1.1 billion by 2020. We're in 2020 right now. Are we
okay,
a
so
1.1 billion
okay,
dollar
so
market?
okay, wait. Before I even I'm guessing Forbes has taken this from the KPMG report
Yep.
because that's what everyone takes.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't believe I have to say this in real life. I've said this on emails and messages over the years, and I say this now on IRL. KPMG's creative writing, don't go by anything. And no, there's reason for that. There's reason for that. See, at the end of the day, when you as a KPMG employee walk into a game company, all right, any game company for that matter, and you're only talking to the guys running the show, all right. The guys running the show, the CEOs, the business owners, their logic is this is another opportunity for me to show off to the world that I am worth investing, and that's what I would do too, man.
Yeah.
But then here's the thing, right? The reports that you can tell it's off because the reports have some massive howlers on occasion. They said stuff in the past that the number one game in India is Assassin's Creed. No, it's not. It's close. It's number one if you quantify it in the genre third person open world action game
Action game.
of a price point of rupees 24,499 or above. If you
Okay.
really put in those filters, yes. So you can tell that it's basically, I mean, it's just done as a PR stunt at the end of the day, as a
Right.
PR stunt for the market. And to me, it's a little misleading because what's going to happen is you're going to have somebody who doesn't know better, reads this, think it's a growing business, puts in time, money, and effort to come into the market, and then later realize what. I mean, that's essentially what happened to Square Enix. Square Enix came in on the back of such huge numbers, such a big market. They realized, yeah, I mean, market's not ready yet.
Right.
And even now, when they've come in their second stint, there's a reason they haven't, gone into dev full swing. Because at the end of the day, you want to see how your existing titles do in this market before you put money in. So it's very misleading. And if I even look at it in terms of game studios, right? So lot of indie studios. There were a lot of indie studios between the period of 2011 and 2015, 2016. You had Super Psych, you had Yellow Monkey, you had Mech Maka, you had a ton of them. Now, thankfully, a few of them are still around, but a lot of them pivoted. So you had a situation where I think a lot of them are moving into real money games, which is essentially a fancy word for gambling. And you have and because that's where apparently the investors are. And
Yeah.
you have another situation where a lot of them are trying to, sustain on the gaming side of things, but it's tough. So a lot of them are doing work for hire, or they're getting into a project, or they're getting into other aspects where their tech can be leveraged, like social media management and building tech around social media platforms. So we're seeing a lot of that happening because at the end of the day, yeah, it's nice to say over 1.1 billion and all, but then when you look at it at a grassroots level, at a level of where your mid and low ranked employees are and how they feel what's going on there, it's a different world. And that's the thing that kind of bothers me with these reports. I mean, when you're talking to the cream of the crop, you're going to hear cream of the crop stuff. If you haven't talked to anyone at the mid tier or low tier, or you haven't spent time to talk to an artist who's basically had his ass handed to them for getting things wrong, or spoken to a product manager who's trying to keep his KPIs on track, you're not going to get an exact picture or accurate estimate of the scene, because that matters. And I don't believe those numbers to begin with.
Okay. Anurag?
Just adding to that. So in 2002 or 2003, one of this big consulting company was doing a report like this. I really can't even share with you the kind of questions they were asking. They were leading me to say that gaming industry is gonna be this much. To the extent they were so. I don't know what word to use. They were like, "Do you think this is the industry size?" I said, "I don't know. I can't predict it. Though, but we have to create this report where we have to give some numbers." I said, "Trust me, I really can't predict it." And especially from studio side, Rishi has been part of a studio. I've been part of studios. It's a hit or miss business, man. I can't put revenue numbers. Now, if you put real money in gaming revenues, yes, we would be that kind of industry. But is that gaming? That is my question.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. We have a lot of there's a lot of confusion, particularly like even on the media side. You have a lot of people who cover tech, mainline tech, who cover other businesses. Come into the gaming beat. They're flooded with emails like Rummy Circle and what MPL and Rummy Circle and stuff like that, which is essentially real money, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. I mean, let's be honest. You even had a situation last year where Shashi Tharoor in Parliament wanted to create an online gaming bit.
Yeah.
So people were. So I had my friends at publishers saying, "Is this going to affect us?" I'm like, "Do you have gambling games?" Like, no. They're like, "Huh, then chill." So a lot of that demarcation's not there yet.
Yeah.
And frankly speaking, I can see how this benefits certain actors. I can see how this benefits, because at the end of the day, you're able to show a larger business. You're able to build a business case that, hey man, the business is growing.
Right.
And that works for some companies, that works for some people. But then it just boils down to the pure ethics of it, because I know some game companies who aren't willing to make that move. I mean, one of them is Alok Kejriwal from Games. He'll do whatever he's doing, but he's very clear and very vocal over the fact that he's not going to touch this from an ethical and moral standpoint.
Sure.
So it's just a question of that. And I frankly, personally, I don't see it being gaming. And I've had this conversation with an exec at a really pretty big company who pivoted into real money. And he's like, "You're not going to write about this, right?" I'm like, "Look, man, you're pivoting to real money. That's gambling. Last I checked, I report on video games, not on gambling, so you don't have to worry about it."
Right.
And it's the grey area. The legislation is not done yet. There are parts of the country that don't even have access to half of these platforms. I mean, everything's in limbo. So I don't even think it's even the question. There's still questions on its legitimacy. When you're not available in parts of the country, like I have a friend in Hyderabad who works at a game studio, and he wanted to check out MPL just to see what that platform is. He can't because banned.
Yeah.
He can't access on the App Store. So that's the situation. And the other thing no one talks about is I mean, for some companies to get to market with some of these games, they actually have to have a lot of staff on ground, a lot of salespeople on ground to get things rolling. I know that one Bangalore-based company who's trying to get into Teen Pati Rummy in a big way has, I think, a ton of agents so that people can pick up scratch cards, start getting rolling with their game and stuff like that. So again, I don't know how much of it is gaming. It's a lot of noise, it's a lot of money, and it'll get you a crazy valuation. But I don't know how much of it is actually.
What about Gaming Monk and like their business model? Like, I mean, they're giving prize money. Like, I mean, it's a very similar sort of, you play, you win.
No, so here's the thing, right? The difference is with Gaming Monk. Gaming Monk's doing it on games like FIFA and Counter-Strike, FIFA, if I'm not mistaken, and other titles.
Right.
The basic AAA console games where the focus is on skill. Now, a lot of these real money games, outside of MPL having PUBG Mobile as an option, a lot of them are cookie cutter variants of simple arcade fare like Teen Pati Rummy, or even other stuff like Angry Bird clones or stuff like that, where there is an RNG. And they build in an RNG aspect to it.
Right.
So it's basically super hyper casual games that have been structured to have an element of RNG, so that that's how it would work. Now the thing, and that's the problem, right? Because you have that level of chance. That's why it's even a legal issue, because it's people don't know if it's a game of skill or game of chance, and that's why certain parts of the country don't even have access to these platforms. So I think that's a distinction now, and when you get that distinction out of the way, and you look at Gaming Monk as what Gaming Monk's doing. They're doing it, from what I know, off AAA console PC games like FIFA, and they're doing it on skill. So it's essentially esport. I mean, in a way, esports.
In a way,
Um,
esports. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my only
More casual,
take on
obviously.
that is that what is difference between esports title and multiplayer gaming? I think one major aspect of esports is that it has to be spectator ready game. So
Okay.
I agree. PUBG etc. is spectator ready, but if PUBG is run on a gaming monk platform, I still won't call it esports. I would call it competitive gaming.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right.
Because because fine, you have a PUBG tournament on their platform, but if they're not signal boosting it, if they're not trying to put in the effort of trying to get it out to more people to watch it,
Sure.
then it becomes a thing. And if I do recall correctly, it's funny you bring them up, because they had India's first PUBG PC tournament in the country, and they're trying to get streamers to rally, trying to get streamers to do stuff with
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
I don't know how that worked out, because I'd spoken to them prior to the event happening.
Right.
So I don't have any visibility on that per se. But again, like I agree with Anurag. If there's no effort made to ensure there's a spectator component to it, what's the point?
So there's very thin line between competitive gaming and esports. According to me, Gaming Monk is a competitive gaming platform, not esports. Funny if I share this with you that everybody has starting using the word esports before their product just to get higher valuation from them.
Right. That
It's
makes
VC
sense.
bait. It's become a VC bait term.
Yeah.
Okay.
To a large degree.
Okay. Yeah. So there's something I've been wanting to talk about, but it's slipping my mind. I'm so sorry. I had like this question like ready, and it's gone. Yeah. It's back. So you guys both said that you've been part of the dev scene, and the game dev scene is something that even I really care about. A lot of my friends are in Dhruva now, Rockstar, and I worked with Pixel Tech, as that was my first internship. I worked on iRacing as an artist. So I went to IGA. I think it's called something else. AID. I did a diploma in game art. I learned a lot of stuff. It was a very interesting course. So yeah, game design is something that's very like close to my heart, and I get a lot of viewers who come by my streams, by my channel, and they're like, "Hey, I want a job in the game industry." And then obviously they're not very specific, but let's look at the game development industry in India. Can you guys paint a picture on like how it has been the last couple of years and what it is now, and maybe future predictions on where it's going tomorrow?
I can share that it has matured a lot. When we were 3 studios back in '99, trust me, I had to go and convince the kids' parents to let these guys work for me. I'm actually gonna pay them salaries. Right now, it's a viable career option, which the kids want to do that. At that time, we had to find new kids who wanted to get into that, and we had to first convince them work for us, then go and convince their parents, please let them work for us. So it has come a long way, but I think what I tell everyone that as far if you ask me, I don't look at your degree. I just want to see, number one, what is your capability and how much trainable you are. These are two of my kind of go-to signals of hiring a guy in dev, which has been from the past. Like the first person I hired in my first game dev company was a kid by the name of Sumit Mehra. I hope
Oh,
you all.
oh,
So he was my employee number one in '99.
okay then.
Okay,
Nice.
who is this guy?
So Sumit Mehra
He wouldn't
worked
even know.
on Uno.
Yeah.
He worked on Uno for Microsoft.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he
And he
worked
also
in.
worked on Battle Dust, which
Yeah.
was something Anurag had a hand, which he never brought up.
We
So
actually
Battle Dust is
released the
India's first
game.
fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So I said Paradox Studios, which was the only introduction I gave. We can discuss that a bit. So Sumit was a kid who had just finished college. computer science engineer, and he came a interview with me and said, I want to join this company. I said, okay, but why did you do engineering? There's no requirement. He said, no, I did engineering because my parents wanted me to do it.
Right, that
But
makes sense.
I wanted to be in games development.
Okay.
And I liked the kid. By the way, Rishi, first job Sumit had at my place was as a PHP developer, developing our website.
Nice.
And
So-
you know, he has been
Yeah.
part of Microsoft, Zynga. Right now, he's at Moonfrog.
Yep.
He
So
was
Sumit's
also part of GemDead also, I think.
Yeah, so Sumit's kind of like an industry legend in a few
Yes.
circles because
Okay.
of his volume of work.
Okay.
Particularly, I mean, what caught my eye was like he worked on Uno, and I'm like, okay, that's great. I mean, that's really cool because it was an Xbox Live game,
Right.
and it was one of the first few Xbox Live games at the time, and that was like before DLC was a thing. So, guy was working on cutting edge tech back then. So, yeah,
And he was my lead designer on the Battledust project. Lead
Yeah.
programmer. He was my go-to guy. If anybody would get stuck, I would say, Sumit, this is the problem. Go solve it. And fair enough, he would get the solution in a day's time.
I think
So,
one
for
of
those-
my former teachers is from IGA, as in Moonfrog Labs, is it?
yeah,
Yeah, I think one of my former teachers from IGA is also there. Joshi, forgetting his full name. But yeah,
nice.
right. So,
But yeah, so
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah,
So, that is how I used to hire, and I'm still of the same opinion. That's how I will hire if I have to get into studio today. Right now, I understand market has matured. They are like, I think, I don't know how many courses available. Of course, you have online also, but I look, what is your skill today, and are you trainable or not? These were my two things I used to always fear.
Right. So, yeah, coming back to the question, like, so, Rishi, like, how has the development landscape been before and now? Like, what has happened in the last couple of years?
I think so. Here's the thing: there's a ton of talent. The talent's been there for a while, particularly in the art and programming spaces. Pretty good. Design, yeah, we're getting there. A lot of it also has to do with the fact that most people who come into gaming from in India, they're focusing on the skills that are up that you're aware of, right? You're aware that a game needs good art. You're aware a game needs coding. So from a designer standpoint, we're not there yet. We don't have anyone who can. We don't have too many people rather who can build systems out, who can build leveling up, who can work on leveling, who can build on tools like leveling and progression. That's not there. That DNA isn't there yet. That culture isn't there yet. There are some guys who've done some really good in that space, like Anand. He used to be at Zynga. He's now started. Who understand that and get that right. But by and large, it's been pretty much that's been one part where the industry is always had. The other part of it is we also got pretty decent product managers. Most of them know their stuff. They're focused on the numbers. So if you look at it from coding and design and product management, we're getting there. We're in a better place than what we were years ago. I mean, even like if I compare it 3 years ago, yeah. The issue, though, which lies in my experience and what I've seen over my period of time is we still have a situation where a majority of the guys calling the shots sadly don't play games. And I get that. I understand that you don't have time. I understand that that it's not something you're interested in. You're looking at it as a business. I understand that. But if you don't have an idea of what the product is, if you don't have an idea of what the design trends are and what direction you should be going in, it becomes a problem. And there have been consequences to this. I mean, you've seen situations where certain games ship in a state that they shouldn't have shipped in. I mean, I saw that with Sachin Cricket Saga. At the end of the day, the preview was pretty decent, and it's still pretty rough. And what we got at launch was basically the same game, and a lot of it had to do with the higher ups not giving them time because they were like, "Oh yeah, the game." Then that's not how it works.
Right.
And I think that's the costly issue in my experience, where you don't have a lot of the C-level guys. They're not developed. And I'm not saying that's a problem that you're not developed, but they don't play games. And I mean, fine, you can build a great spreadsheet to understand how much things cost, but if you don't have a basic idea, forget game design. I'm not even saying pick up a book on game design, read draft copy. I'm just saying, like, have a basic understanding of psychological loop, why people come back, why they're playing, continue to play, why they've left. And that's the part of it that I find disturbing. The rest of it, pretty much at the ground level, is good. I mean, we're in a better place than what we in terms of skill and talent. Whether it's able to last out, obviously, is another issue because, as I said earlier, a lot of studios are sitting. but I think the talent's there.
But
So
we've formed an outsource industry, right? Sorry,
yeah,
it's become mostly like with Forza being developed here. I mean, most of my friends are just designing the assets for it. We're not. It's just one aspect of the game that is being outsourced to India because it's cheaper, and we are. I mean, essentially all these guys, all these devs who I know, they're working really hard. They're in crunch time all the time. You know, they're getting fatter every year that I see them. So yeah, that's my worry that the actual like I mean, take a game like Battlefield. It's not being designed. Those kind of games are not being designed in India, and it's going to be a while before that
Uh,
happens, right?
so I look at it this way. I mean, what a lot of that talent that's worked on the outsourcing on the assets part,
Sure.
eventually they get bored and they end up forming studios. So like one of them is Nottingham, guys behind Raji.
Okay.
So Raji, even in its unfinished state when I played it 2 years ago at IGX, was very good. I mean, they could have just shipped it then. No one would have batted an eye. And these are guys who are ex Rockstar. These are guys who who've been in. Some of them have had a background in that part of the business. And I think it's a question of the individual, right? Want to take that experience with something or not. And we even saw that with other companies in the past. Like Trine also had it start with outsourcing a bit. So I think it's just an evolutionary process. If you look at the business as a tech tree,
Right.
as a skill tree, and figure out when people are going to evolve to the next thing, or are they happy doing that? That it becomes a personal thing. But I think there is an opportunity there because it's not just Raji, right? Like you even had Roosh. Roosh Interactive's done a
yeah.
ton of games. A 7-year-old studio. They've done a crazy number of games for the Geo. They've done a crazy number of games on iOS and Android for global and local audience. Zombie Rush, Sniper 3D. They've done a ton of stuff. The
Oh,
work is there.
those are
It's
big.
just
Those
that
are big titles, at least for
Yeah.
the Android store.
it's not going to be the AAA side. I don't
Right.
see it being AAA anytime soon. I see a lot of it being mobile. I see a lot of it being indie projects on console PC. Like even Asura from Head
Right.
and the follow up game to that Yota. Uh, I see those. I see more of those mid size, almost double A style games coming out.
Others,
And
is there a market for these kind of games, Anurag? Like,
yeah, internationally yes. India not too
Even
sure.
yeah, yeah. Because if you see Rohan, as since you mentioned Rouge, great stuff, man. The problem, Rishi, I feel for number one, of course, we miss the design part. We are still not there. We don't have any competency on the design part, but we can get collaboration done with some foreign designers to design the game. But my issue is who's gonna fund a AAA title in India?
We had
That is
that
the
right.
big
Sony did that for a few years.
yeah,
I mean,
and we
I
know the
wouldn't call them.
outcome.
I wouldn't call
Yeah,
them AAA, but I would call them starting efforts.
yeah, which
okay.
was
So
there, which was there. But
Wait,
if you see
was
right
this
now,
game? Did this game have a name? Sorry, like
which one?
the one that Sony was funding.
yeah,
No,
Hanuman,
Sony.
Oh, the Hanuman game. Oh my god.
Hanuman
No,
and
not
the
just
cricket
Hanuman.
one,
Not just Hanuman. Hanuman, Street Cricket, Card
street
King,
cricket.
Desi Adda, Games of India. That
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
actual name.
yeah,
Okay.
And those are just four I can remember. And then there was
yeah.
also SingStar Bollywood, which they heavily utilized for it. So
That
SingStar
that
Bollywood,
that was the version of Sing It with Indian titles,
yes.
Indian songs. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Anurag. You were saying.
yeah. So I was saying that right now, even if we have the talent, there's nobody who's looking at India as a box product developer. So AAA titles, I think, are not gonna happen for next couple of years, if you ask. Like if I'm a publisher, I wouldn't put that money in Indian talent when I have the talent anywhere in the world, because for games development, the cost is not the criteria; it's the quality and product quality. Whereas for outsourcing, cost is the issue. So that's the reason why Dhruva's, Rockstars, EAs, all these have operations in India.
Technicolor. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's one part of it, but the other part of it is also what a lot of people tend to neglect because it's not AAA. Is some of these studios the live services happen in India. So you have a game that's probably developed in London or the live ops tend to happen in India. EA does that quite a bit. They've done it with I think Pet Society and a couple of other games where live ops happen out of Hyderabad. where you have a
Okay.
product manager, you have a designer.
What is
you have
what is
a
live
tech.
ops again? I'm not familiar with the
So
term.
okay, it's like this, right? You have a game like Destiny. How do you keep people coming back? What are the events you have?
Right.
What changes you make to the game economy? So all that stuff, while it's prevalent now in 2019 in 2020, it used to be happening on social games and mobile games for years.
Yeah.
Fair
So
enough.
Zynga India was doing that initially.
Zynga was a live ops team also.
Yeah.
So that's what it's called. It's called live. The industry term is live ops because they
Okay.
work on games that already exist and keep people coming back, find a way to retain them, find a way to have them spend more money, stuff like that. And a lot of that, and that's where I see a lot of Indian talent coming in. EA has done that, Zynga has done that. To an extent, Gameloft used to do that as well. So yeah.
Yes, Ishan Arya, you're a mod on my channel. If Arshi's a mod, you're a mod. Don't worry. Yeah. So now coming to like a little bit of masala, I think we've covered a lot of. There are some questions which the audience have asked. I filtered two of them because a lot of the questions you guys asked were very stupid. Sorry, guys.
There are no stupid questions, Rohan.
There's no
Trust
stupid
me.
questions. Okay, fine.
Trust me. Throw it.
We'll go with the ones that I flagged first. Somebody asked, Sachin asked, does the current economic condition of India does it affect the gaming industry or esports, and if so, how?
So my take on that is that if economy is not in great shape, it's a great time for gaming. In any recession, gaming is one industry which has done much better.
Okay.
So I don't see it's gonna have impact on because right now if you see most of the products that we have in the country are free to play games, especially on the mobile side, which is
Sure.
our major audiences. So I don't think that would be rather. I don't want to sound get into that era that I'm gonna be being pro gaming industry. That if there are a couple of people out of job, trust me, they're gonna game.
What do you think, Rishi? Do you think the economic slump is going to affect the gaming industry?
It'll affect the industry in general. I'm not
Sure.
talking from an India standpoint. From a global standpoint, there are effects. And India, what I've seen is India tends to get some of those ripples. But I mean, so far things seem steady. I mean, I haven't. There hasn't been anything that's untoward. I think the closest issue we've had is something we discussed earlier, which is that a lot of smaller studios, mid-tier studios, investment-funded studios, they're pivoting. But that's about it. I don't see any major impact. I don't think the current economic climate means you're going to be playing less games. In fact,
Sure. Right. All right. I hope that answers your question, Sachin.
as Anurag said, you're going to be playing games. I just don't see that being a problem.
We've got another question from Raj Mehta. He asks, I'm going to try to word this because the wording is a little difficult. Many games does marketing of their games on Instagram, which is really stupid. And then too many people download it. Why don't big games market on Instagram?
Big games do market on Instagram.
Yeah.
WWE and Red Dead Redemption 2 smashing up my feed for the last.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a nice question from Flanker, who's a Siege player.
Hey, Flanker, what's up? I mean, he follows me on Twitter. Nice guy.
Yeah. So his question is a little bit more direct. How would you differentiate competitive gaming and esports? I mean, we were talking about this, but he wants you to clarify.
So basically, competitive gaming is basically esports gaming minus broadcasting. That's if you ask me in simple terms, that's the my personal take on the difference between competitive gaming and esports, because esport, the term means that it electronic sport, and tell me a cricket match which is not a spectator event, what is fun in that? You will just get the scores at the end of the game.
What do you think, Rishi?
I mean, I look at it this way, man. My view is a lot more simpler. Competitive gaming means you can turn your chair and slap, kill you. So, yeah.
Sorry, your voice, I lost audio for a second.
I said competitive gaming is for me the difference is a lot more simpler.
Right.
In competitive gaming, I can turn my chair around, slap the guy who shot me, and still be okay.
Right. So esports is a higher echelon of like
Pretty
competitive gaming, where it's the best of the best who are competing. And
Sure. Not
Ideally,
really.
yes.
No, but not really, because if you see amateur level scene that we discuss about, which is critical, that's not best of the best. Those are people who want to reach that bracket of best. That's how you identify those people.
right, right. Ishan Arya says the difference between Sunday League football and the Premier League. Fair enough. Um, okay, let's like segue away from questions because I don't see any interesting questions. There is one. How do you get funded on the basis of your idea and protect your idea in an
Oh,
esports
nice.
perspective?
I mean,
Esports perspective, trust me, there are thousands of ideas floating around, new ideas, some old ideas modeled again in a new model stuff. So for esports, I don't think that's the issue. But what Rishi can help you is that if you have a game idea, how do you take care of that aspect?
I think at the end of the day, what's important is two things. If you think your idea is really good, make sure you figure out both really thing. And then if you think it's all that and more, then there's no harm getting lawyers involved, patent, or drafting something in terms of an IP.
Rishi, we've lost audio on you from
Yeah.
that bear segment.
Yeah.
Could you go again?
So I think there are basically two things you have to worry about. One is, firstly, check it thoroughly to know that it's unique, and secondly, if it is all that, and there's no harm getting lawyers involved or getting an IP on it, or at least trying to get or getting a patent on it or something along those. Because I mean, the issue is, at least where India is concerned, IP sharing laws are still weird. So I'd recommend those two things. Jumping to the fact that you think you have something. If you're really sure, then go ahead and look at the legal options, because that's the only thing that most companies respect.
Right, right. So basically, file for IP, lawyer up, essentially.
Pretty much.
Got it. There was a question on pricing, which I think Rishi would be very interested in. Could you ask that question again, Abhishek? Because I am not able to find it in this wall of text. Just give me a second. I'm just scrolling up for this. Abhishek, if you could just ask that question again, that would be great. But it was basically about regional pricing and.
Oh God, really now?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, sure. I don't mind explaining
I think that's something you could rant for a long time.
No, it's so I don't see, I don't blame people asking this question, because the publishers goofed up big time.
Okay.
So essentially, if I look at it, regional pricing basically means that because you're living in a country that doesn't have that higher standard of living, you get a better range of games.
Sure.
Traditionally, PC games have seen that. You've seen a situation where a game like or Sims, globally $60, India price $9.99, $9.99, stuff like that.
Okay.
But that's not happened anymore. We're seeing situations where PC games, which used to be the cheapest, are now same price as console. Sometimes a little more also, depending on the publisher. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that so that's the beauty of it, right? You have a huge number of people with PCs, but the number of people with PCs playing games is few. So publishers took a bet. They took a bet by dropping price for a long period of time, and to see if people would buy games on PC. And they did. Heck, I bought it. I mean, more than half of my games are on PC, boxed PC games. And I paid $6.99, I paid $4.99, I paid $9.99. It was worth it. I saw value. Because you compared it to console, it was pointless. Console was pointless at that time. You buy consoles only for pieces, played everything else on PC because it was ridiculously cheap. That changed because they didn't see the return on their bet. They didn't see people buying in the millions they expected. Because what most people don't understand is the price drops you get is on basis of quantity. So today, if a publisher or a distributor comes and says, "Okay, I want to price GTA 5 at $4.99," then then the distributor has to buy at least 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 units of the game to justify it. Because you're not making margin, you're making volume. Then you have to make money on the volume sold.
Okay.
And that's where things went to hell.
Okay.
So I don't blame people for asking, because there are a lot of us who benefited from regional pricing. But it's not going to be a thing anymore simply because publishers simply don't see the return. I find it ridiculous, frankly speaking, because there is an audience for lower priced PC games. There are people who want to buy multiple, who are willing to buy more games at one point in time because they see a lower rate. I've seen that happen. It's just that they're afraid of re-export. They're afraid of other stuff. They're afraid of people's of Indian keys going to other countries like Russia or.
Right.
But then you can region lock that. I mean, Capcom did that successfully. I remember with DMC Devil May Cry, and even remember me and Resident Evil Revelations, and even 6. Everything was region locked and geo locked. That wasn't a problem. Those tools are there, and but they just don't want to use them. So I kind of blame the publishers on this one because
Okay.
I mean I understand where they're coming from because it's a business case. But at the end of the day, then you can. There are tools to keep it going. You just choose not to. They want to make more money off one point. Their logic is if someone's paying me 2499 instead of 999, I'll take that over somebody paying 999 and that's it. So it's basically a number.
But Rishi, my take on that is that I completely blame the publishers because any additional box sold is an additional revenue for them from Indian market perspective also. Of course, there's a minimum cost. I understand the dev cost, the packaging cost, all that shit, but it's additional revenue for them. So why not give it more time for the market to mature?
I don't know. I mean, some are of that opinion. We're seeing that with Ubisoft recently. They did that with Siege. Siege is $4.99 in India, which is, I think, a good price. It's something that should be. And what's great is because it plugs into the ecosystem. You have people who are more interested to play the game because of it. So, but then not everyone has that approach, right? Because from their logic, it's been like, we tried and nothing worked out. And, everything went re-exported to other countries. So, I just find that weird because the tools are there for them to continue with regional pricing. But they just choose not to. Though if you ask me, one good thing that has happened and is that the fact that Steam finally got rupee pricing. Until 2016, until end 2015, beginning 2016, everything was in dollars.
Yeah.
And the pricing was bad. Here at least, fine. We're not getting regional pricing on AAA stuff, but the indies have been good. Kentucky Route Zero on Steam is like I think $500-$600 versus buying it on PS4 or Xbox, which is like $1,300-$1,400. I mean, it's still there. It's just not there for the games people want for other games that people want. That's gonna be
one more question. Since you mentioned Steam, so of course I buy games on Steam, but using my credit card. What are the payment options on Steam today? So I know credit card, debit card, and what else?
Cash on delivery. I'm not joking.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
Cash on delivery is a pretty decent option. I actually know people who use it. So
I used to use it.
There you go.
No, because if you look at masses, they don't have credit cards, at least for our audience segment.
Yeah. So they have cash on delivery as an option, and that works. And what people also and what most people tend to neglect is that you usually have third-party sites that also allow cash on delivery. So like if you're buying codes from Flipkart or Amazon, I mean, assuming they're legitimate codes, they're available on cash on delivery.
Yeah, you do get them actually, and like I have a RuPay card, so like sometimes cash on delivery was like the only way of getting shit done until I very recently got a Visa card. But yeah, absolutely. We got another question from Aman Biswas of Gamer Connect. He asks, what are the chances of the gaming influencer market that is booming right now, to merge with Bollywood and become an extension of Bollywood or something more independent?
I would not recommend it. It's gonna be doomed for influencer marketing right now, in my perspective, because the gaming influence is a different breed. Yeah, we have some crossovers, some guys who understand gaming and play gaming, but I would like to keep my gaming influencer different from my other influencer, Bollywood.
I mean, it's an interesting thing to look at because it's not like Bollywood's never had a stake in. We've seen it with Ravan, where Shah Rukh Khan marketed the crap out of that on everything. And that was on console, that was on mobile, that was on video cards, that was everywhere.
Right.
And I don't, and again, like it's at the end of the day, any call, regardless of the influencers you want on board, is the same call you take on the number of units of a game you bring in based on a cheaper price. It's essentially how much return you're going to get. And I think the reason why gaming influencers work out isn't for any other reason, but because that they're better value. And they're better value because at the end of the day, viewers have a personal connect. They're people you want to listen to. Then you're not there because you watched XYZ in a Bollywood movie. No, you're there because you tuned in. You liked what they had to say. You liked what they had to show you. and you continue coming back. So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the streamer popularity exists because of them being good value, and because they've created audiences that give a crap. I mean, at the end of the day, fine. You had someone in a Bollywood, whatever, they have their fans. That's great, but they're there for the. But if you're trying to sell a game, those people, the chances of them picking it up are less. I mean, let's put it this way: if I had money to burn, I'd put it on influencers over Bollywood for the simple reason that audience is more connected, gives a crap about game. Most important.
It's sticky
And-
also. It's a sticky audience.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think that I'm not ruling out the possibility of that happening. It'll just mean, but I just don't see the value. I don't see the value of something of that working to a large degree, because as Anurag said, the sheer number of people a Bollywood celeb will get in is obviously a lot more. But then I look at it from a quality. What kind of audience are you getting in? Are you getting in the people who, are you getting the kind of people who just leech off your...
Okay,
You want the people who are paying
we lost you for that last sentence.
I said, do you want people who are leeching off others' Netflix accounts, or do you want people who are paying for the Netflix?
Paying for the, yeah.
Exactly. So that's
Right.
how you want that kind of audience. It's the audience you want,
Uh,
which is why influencers work.
Sadiq Ahmed just super chatted us 100 rupees and he says, "Hey Rishi." So, Rishi,
So,
one of your friends?
nope.
Okay, just an admirer. Right. So, you know what? I since I'm weirdly in the influencer space, I think most of the audience also knows that I work freelance as an influencer manager with some of your favorite streamers, Raka, Hydra, Shriman, and all these guys. But like, there's a topic that like Rishi and I we talked about briefly, which is the entire ethics of influencing, and like, I feel like that's something that no one is teaching these kids, because the Bollywood influencers, there's an existing ecosystem. There's literature. There's you can talk to people and they'll tell you how to do it. But most gamers don't have that. They don't have that guiding support or anything. So, and you have seen your fair share of unethical influencers in the gaming industry. Let's not name anybody, whatever. But the point is, like, what do you think? Like, what is a lesson that future streamers who will watch this, I hope, they should keep in mind when they start working with brands, when they start representing, endorsing products, things like that?
I think the first thing they need to do is so let's be honest here.
Right.
Any streamer who gets a deal because the brand has vetted them. Brand has come to them and said, "Yeah, you're great. You're a great fit." That's nice, but I think streamers should do their own vetting. Do their own. They should also be comfortable to do their repping. I mean, I get it. The money is nice, but also there's no harm digging a little deeper. There's no harm asking them, "What's the ethics in play here? What's the disclosures in place?" Because and why it's important to bring that up. It's important to bring that up simply because a lot of time brands actually have an ethics clause.
Yeah.
They actually have a disclosure clause, but they're not followed by, for the lack of a better term, very opportunistic marketing people.
Okay.
So that is the issue right there. They have to understand that what they're doing is essentially what celebs do when they advertise brands, which is why if you see celebrities advertising brands, it's an advert. They're advertising. It's on a place like on social media, you see hashtag ad, you see hashtag search for a reason.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, money is changing hands. All right, goods is changing hands. Benefit is being given to the links are going there. All of that is in play, right?
Right.
So yeah, they have to understand that. Fine, you're a streamer. That's great, but at the end of the day, certain rules for you guys and celebs are the same. This is one of them, and a lot of it has to. It's not even the kids at fault. It's the fact that you have opportunistic brand guys misleading them, and that is to me one of the bigger issues, because it's not a formalized industry yet. That's something most people tend to forget. It's not like Bollywood, where you have like a legacy of 70 plus years. You have an ad industry and ethics watchdog on it. You have all that there. But then here you're in a situation where, I mean, people like YouTube themselves don't give a crap. So I think that's the big problem. I mean, and YouTube has an ethics department. We know that.
That's interesting that you mentioned YouTube, Rishi, because like I got a inquiry from one of my streamers, popular brand, and they were like, "Hey, for this particular campaign, we want you to push like a YouTube video like on the platform, like an ad." And I'm like, "Hey, since we're not saying that this is a paid whatever this thing.
Yeah.
We can't do that. It's against YouTube's violations. It's against their terms of service. And then the brand was like, "Oh, is that so?" I don't think it's more. I don't think it's the fact that it's just opportunistic marketers, but I think there is a bunch of marketers who don't know like what are the TOS, the terms of service for platforms like YouTube, how to engage with them. They've not done their due diligence. They have no idea, and that's right, right? Like Anurag,
Yeah.
most of these gaming companies in India don't seem to do their little background research before they approach or they spend money, right?
Yeah. So even the brands, like I was in a meeting with a brand and well-known international brand, and they had no clue about gaming. The brand manager didn't know about gaming. His expectation would be, I'm not saying was, but would be same as the traditional marketing that he's doing. When they use Bollywood celebs, the kind of marketing they do, he was expecting the same kind of marketing from us, which doesn't work.
Right. No, but in terms of like unethical practices, like did you ever have a meeting with a brand where you felt like they were sort of
Fortunately, no. I never had an interaction with the brands because I've been on the other side, not selling to the brand. So luckily, I have never had an experience where brand try to do unethical. But I've already seen with a lot of streamers. But I would love to know the names which you said. Let's not discuss them. Let's do it offline. That's okay. But when I see some streamer talking about a brand, courtesy my experience, I can make out it's a planted ad or is he actually talking good about the brand. But that has
right,
come with years in the industry.
right. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the struggle here, and then you also have streamers who are view botting. Like, so it's not like the brands are at fault here, 100%. You
I
have
don't know. I mean, I've had a very different experience with gaming traffic, to be
okay,
honest.
sure,
I mean, there are situations where the brand themselves will put traffic into a video. I've seen certain. I mean, it's pretty obvious, man. You go to a channel, you see 5 gaming videos with 1,500 views. You suddenly see this video
for a
and that
phone.
video has 70, 80K views.
Okay,
And you know that the channel is run by someone who doesn't have a budget to play with. Who spend? It's pretty obvious after a. And I agree with Anurag. A lot of the experience that will come seeing with. I mean, at the end of the day, while you're putting the content out, nothing's stopping a brand from paying YouTube to have that video show up on people's auto playlist, and that happens. That happens a lot, often than you think. So a lot, and there's a reason for it, right? At the end of the day, the brand has to show the guy who's running the campaign in it has to show his boss that at the end of the day we fake.
yeah,
So someone's job's on the line. But then there's another aspect to this also. I mean, you have certain. I mean, so the indicator, like audiences aren't stupid. That's the
right,
beauty of all of this. We have situations where I've seen, and I've spoken to several streamers who told me that, yeah, man, we know it's a sponsored thing. Brand has no problem with us saying it's sponsored. Not to say it's sponsored because we know our views drop by 20. I mean, okay, I get it. I understand why you're doing it, but that doesn't make it right.
right.
It's still wrong. You're misleading people, and stuff like that tends to happen. And a
I
lot of it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and you know, the thing is, a lot of these brands put us in situations where I have to defend a brand that is getting slammed in the international market. You know, like I have to continue telling people to buy in that brand when that brand is just getting wiped clean in every
Yeah,
technology event, and I don't know how to navigate this
that's pretty
because
simple. Straight up, as your video starts, insert it, right? This is a sponsored thing.
right.
Yeah,
That's, I mean, just do that. It's a second. You just insert a slide that's like probably a couple of seconds and say that this is
Wait,
a
can you
sponsored
say that
thing.
again? Your audio cut off.
Yeah, just say that this is a sponsored thing. Just put a
Right,
put a slide in your video that says the thing. Like you
right.
have viewer discretion advised when you watch South Park, right? Do
Yeah.
that. Make sure it goes out there. Let people know there's no harm doing it.
Right,
Just because even if you look at video, I mean, of all the guys I watch regularly, one is B, and half of his videos are sponsored. He says it up front. This he even has a hashtag ad in his description, and people still watch them because there's value in watching. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's a way to find that happy medium between keeping the brand happy and releasing good content that people care about.
Sure.
I mean, Linus Tech Tips has done a fantastic job on that. So I hate to
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah.
Despite that clickbait, I am retiring. What the hell was that?
Hey, so
Like, that's a
is he retiring? Like,
No, he's not. That
No
video
way.
was the rise of the Skywalker of YouTube videos. Right? I watched the entire thing.
Yeah, I watched half of it and then I was just like, I can't watch it anymore.
No, I watched the whole thing. But yeah, my point is, they should look at how international. Because see, until guidelines are in, there's no harm at looking at how guys do it internationally and are still able to retain their audience.
Right.
It's just a question of doing that extra legwork. And, there are ways to do it. Others have done it well.
So Rohin, my advice would be for you that if you don't want to put the word that this is a sponsored video, you can always put the South Park slide. Weird discussion.
No, I don't mind. In fact, funnily enough, like because of my entire Nvidia debacle with that podcast, when we restarted,
What happened that time?
Oh, God.
when we restarted the podcast series, I'm just moving forward with this. I've put it behind me, but we did start having a viewer discretion slide because Archie is a entity that cannot be controlled.
You telling me? You telling that to me? Anyway.
Archie still, man. You guys just hating on the guy. He's nice, man. Go ahead.
Archie's family, Rishi, but I can
He's
still
the
tell
reason-
you how much he's difficult to
By the way, Rishi,
reel back in.
He's the reason I'm on this podcast today because last time he made some comments about Riot, which was basically to light me up. And I said I wanna be on the podcast, and I told Venom what is my opening line is for that podcast is gonna be. Is Archie in the chat?
I don't think he is, but
Okay.
you can
So I'm
still
gonna-
go. You can still go ahead and let him know what you have to say.
It was beautiful 3 words. Fuck you,
Yeah,
Archie.
but Anurag, here's the thing. Don't take the bait. I mean, with him, he's chill if you don't take the bait.
Yeah,
No, man.
I don't take the
No,
bait
man,
either. That's true.
I have to take the bait. I have to fight with him. That's the point.
Yeah, well.
Great guy, yeah. Great guy, bud.
Archie is just one of those guys who does not give a shit, and that's why he's
Yeah.
very interesting to hang out with. And he did feel very bad, but at the same time, I was just like, you know what, man, I knew what I was getting into. You knew what we were getting into. Like, it's fine, But yeah, like I don't have the Intel logo on collaborations with Archie for a very important reason that our man can never lie about tech. He can never lie about tech.
I know that.
And I just said that, look, man, whatever you say on my streams is in my opinion. I think we have time for one more question, I think. But it is from Vikas Mulchandani. It's a very generic question. Is esports a long time and reliable career option?
Yes. Because see, esports as an industry already has gone through a we had, I think 6 years back, somebody had a brilliant idea to get esports onto live TV. Same thing which you, Cypher, did, but on a long format one. So we had a bubble which burst at that time.
Right.
Luckily, we are out of that phase. So esports as a career is something which I strongly believe. Like I have told everybody that I'm going to retire at 50 and I'm going to retire from this industry only, from esports industry. But one thing, Rohan, if we have time, another 5 minutes, I want to cover because a lot of people approach me that, hey sir, I'm a gamer, take me in esports. It doesn't work that way. You being a gamer is a plus point, but that's not the only consideration for you applying for a job. So that is one message I wanted to get out for all the aspirants that you have to have, of course, basic knowledge of esports as an industry, but whenever you apply for one job. Funny part is that a lot of time when CVs used to come to me at Geo, I would ask which post you have applied. They said whatever post you have. It doesn't work that way, guys.
Yeah.
And the funniest part was when I was at Riot, I would get, so we used to post our CVs on riotgames.com. So one guy would apply for all the posts, including from a tech head to the community manager. For every job, he would apply thinking we would take him. And I was clear, if you have applied for more than one job, you are rejected anyway at Riot.
Acha. What about you, Rishi? Like, if you were hiring for your website, I don't know if the audience is. I did show the website earlier, but Rishi runs this. What? How would you describe it? As a games news portal?
So the website I run is the Mako Reactor. It's a website that focuses on Japanese games, and we also look at what, in terms of at least AAA stuff, in terms of console stuff.
Sure.
And yeah, that's what we do. It's the site.
And
Right
if you were hiring for this for your website, what kind of qualifications? It is a gaming job, so what kind of qualifications?
I mean, honestly, the person should be able to. It's the most important.
Right.
Because syntax, grammar, all that stuff is important. SEO you learn on the job.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about. I learned SEO. I'm not worried about the SEO stuff. I'm not worried about even what questions to ask someone in an interview. That can be learned. That's not the problem. I mean, if my only, like, literally, and this is the same thing in places, you can't string two words together. And second thing is, a lot of, I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, obviously, is that you have a few people, who dropped out of school, never finished, who come in and they do crazy good work. I mean, there are some guys who do odd-tier work, but then that's the exception, not the rule. So, by and large, get your degree done. It's damn annoying, but it's something I have to keep. So, I mean, to me, it's basically.
Do you get a lot of applications where the
we've had a few
applicants don't have degrees?
We've had like one person who wanted to join us who had no, but we didn't not accept him because of that. We didn't accept him. We're just starting out. I don't want to have you on board, and this is what happens with Indian game sites, particularly those that are just starting out. They try getting free work, and then they say, "Oh, we'll pay you." That's bull. I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
So we only take people when we can afford, and we're not. We don't do this nonsense where right for pro bono. That's so. That's the main thing. The main thing is, you should be able to string words. Have decent writing.
Hey, Rishi, your audio is blacking out a lot.
Yeah.
Is it a mic thing or is it an internet thing?
Yeah, it seems to be a mic thing. Hello?
Yeah, just move it closer to your lapel.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, now much better.
Yeah, so the thing is, as long as you're able to write, and as long as you're, one is being able to write, two is at least having knowing what you're writing. You get those two in place, those things can be.
Right. So I think we can actually like call it a day here. There was this game design college that you were talking about the other day in Mumbai, which is doing an event in Feb. Can we just like talk about that for a sec?
Yeah. So there's this game design school in Mumbai called Ecole Inuit. They have an event that's coming up on February 8th and 9th called EKL, which has a PUBG mobile tournament, has a Siege tournament, has a couple of other games, and they also are having seminars and panels. Some of your favorite streamers from the likes of the House of Ruin. So you guys may want to show up if you're in Mumbai. Check that out. It's on the 8th and 9th at Ecole Inuit, which is at Prabha Devi, Mumbai. So yeah, you guys. Oh yeah, guys from Ubisoft are also coming.
What is the name of the school again? Can you
Ecole Inuit.
Can you spell that?
ECOLE space IN UIT.
UIT. Mumbai.
Yep.
All right. So Ecole into. Okay, Prabhadevi. Yeah. This is the one.
Yeah. Yep.
So just going. I don't know if the event poster is out yet. Is this a French?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a French establishment.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I don't think they've posted anything yet, but it's fine if we talk.
Yeah. So obviously like Raka Zone and Shriman Legend, Shriman Bhai are going to be there at this event. So if you guys are from Mumbai, this is I think Feb 8th or Feb 9th. We're not sure about the dates, but I'll let you know as soon as we have the information. So go. It's going to be a good meet and greet. They're going to be talking 45 minutes each about gaming, and you get to ask them questions about how they've managed streaming and how they become streamers and what kind of lives they lead. Very interesting lives, by the way. So yeah, if you're a student or if you're in school or if you're in college and you want to like pursue game design or whatever, check it out. It'll be an interesting event. and I'll try to come. I'm trying to come. I don't know if I will be able to make it, but if I can come, I will definitely be there. Thank you so much, Rishi, and thank you so much, Anurag.
Thanks, man.
This was a lot of fun, and hopefully, I would like to have you guys back on a less serious podcast where we talk about masala.
This wasn't serious.
No, you have.
This is serious by my standards.
But yeah, you have not seen his RR podcast. I have seen them. Trust me, it was the most serious podcast I've seen from this guy. So call me anytime for your RR podcast also.
Yes.
Disappointing.
Yes.
Son, you don't know what serious is. This is like chill.
This is chill.
like-
Okay.
It's like conversation over coffee.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. This is conversation over coffee. Like the conversations we have over crack. It's like that's kind of where we want to head. If there's a masala topic that Rishi that you'd want to just quickly like talk about before we like cut off, like let me know. Is there something?
I can't think of any masala topic right now, to be honest.
Okay.
But if you can think of one, sure.
Unfortunately I really can't. Like nothing interesting has happened of late for me
Don't
to like.
tell me.
Yeah.
Don't
To be
tell me,
honest,
Rohan.
I mean, anyway, for all of those of you who want masala, all I'll say is there's going to be a lot of masala from March onwards. There's going to be reason being there's going to be a lot of it. So yeah, that.
From March onwards.
Yeah, I mean, simply because from March onwards is when all games are out. That's when events are going to happen. So
Right.
any masala is around that.
Do you guys
I don't
cover?
see any-
Do you guys
Huh?
cover masala on the Mako reactor?
I mean, if it's relevant, yeah. So if
Okay.
there are situations where, like, I mean, if you think about it, our entire story, Microsoft is masala.
Acha.
At least by my standards, it's masala.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, depends on it. I try not to because it's a lot of it devolves into he said, she said.
Right.
Unless there's a good reason, we try to avoid.
Alright guys, I'm going to drop the links for the MakoReactor.com. Go subscribe to their newsletter. You do have a newsletter, right?
No, we don't have a newsletter.
Not
We
yet?
don't even want your data. Show up, take a look, read if you like anything.
What,
Hit us up on Twitter.
what
hit
is
me up
this,
on-
man? Inbound marketing and all that you should start
No,
doing, dude.
screw that. I mean, I don't want
Please.
people's data. I want you to read stuff. If you like it, we'll be in touch. It's fine.
Just take their email IDs, man. Have a newsletter.
No.
Or an
I mean,
RSS feed push thing.
No.
Rishi doesn't believe in all that shit, man.
Point is, if you like the news, you think it's worth reading, come back and
Yeah.
it's fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Spiel Times, for the 40 rupees donation. Alright, guys, that's all we have for today. I hope you guys found this podcast interesting. And if you did, do leave a like, do subscribe, and do come back for more podcasts. Wednesdays, 10 p.m. It is
A great one.
It is the only gaming, English gaming podcast which has idiots in the podcast.
By the way,
Which is
Rohan,
Grim, Archie, and me. I'm not talking about you two, Grim,
I
Archie.
agree completely. Hey, it's an accurate account, man. It's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. It's chill.
Rohan, by the way, I liked your Hindi stream yesterday.
Oh my
I
God.
was watching it till you finished it. I think you wrapped it up at 2 or 3 a.m.
You watched a 4-hour live stream
Yes.
and me struggling
Yes.
to speak in Hindi.
That was
Thank-
the fun part of it.
Thank you so much. I have to make
My
clips.
pleasure, man.
Thank you, Rishi. Thank you so much for your time. And I know you moved a meeting for this. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Anurag. I know you drove 2 hours and you look like dead. You look like death
That's-
personified. So,
That's okay, man. Part of life. I've got so used to it by now.
all right. I wish you guys a nice evening. Thank you so much for watching. Peace and happy.
Take care. Bye.
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 Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks.